Welcome to the Travelman Podcast. My name is Ben and I host this cool travel podcast. If you're joining me for the first time, then I say thanks a bunch for listening. And on today's episode, I'll be chatting to Brad Hargis from the Cinema Guys podcast to talk about some of his favorite travel films and other interesting things about film and travel. So sit back and enjoy the podcast. Hey Brad, thanks for joining me, mate. What's the weather like where you are at the moment?
Thanks for having me. Here, it's actually been pretty nice the past few days. We had some cold, but the last couple days it's been nice and sunny, and we've been able to get outside after being cooped up for the past, few weeks.
Yeah, you guys are still cooped up a bit.
Oh yes, we're here in Ohio. We're under a stay-at-home order, so only like essential stores are open right now. So we can go out and walk the dogs and stuff like that, but stay at home as much as you can.
Fair enough. Hopefully by the time I release this episode, all of COVID-19 is over.
I hope so.
Which will only be like probably a month and a bit, so who knows? Anyway, considering I got smashed by Dave Jackson from Podcast Rodeo the other day, I better not chat too much about stuff that doesn't relate to travel films. So I've got you on today. We're going to talk about some travel films. You're from the Cinema Guys podcast, as I would have said in the introduction. You, Justin, Cinemaiden, talk about different movies that have come out. You review the films. I really like the podcast. I listen to episodes. How'd you guys get started doing the podcast together?
Well, it was it started with Justin and I. We kind of had a standing every week. We went to a movie and we'd just kind of sit in the parking lot for like an hour afterwards and just talk about the movie and what we thought and everything else. And it came to a point eventually I was like, let's do a podcast about this. And it took a while for us to get going, and, not knowing, I've never done much audio or anything like that. So trying to figure out what to do and to get this out in the world. And we finally released our first episode back in 2016, and it was just Justin and I. And then we brought one of our friends on, Michael, for a while, and he unfortunately couldn't do the show anymore. So we brought our friend, the Cinemaiden, in. She would go to the movies with us also, and she wanted to be on the show, and she's been on ever since. That was probably like 6 to 8 months after we started. So she's been there for most of it.
Wow. Yeah, she's got a good voice for radio or for podcasting. So does Justin. I mean, all three of you got a really good vibe about you, connection. It's really nice.
Thank you.
Nice to see in a three-person podcast.
Yeah, we feel like, coming up almost 4 years of the show, that we've got a nice dynamic and know how to play off each other now, finally. It took a while, but...
Yeah, I was listening to the Parasite podcast recently, and I love how Justin's got his strong opinions and the Cinemaiden's just trying to give her opinion back, and they got this back and forth going, and I just love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's fun, especially between those two. Like, they can get at it, or they both team up on me because I like bad movies.
There was one film you mentioned on the podcast. I forget what it is now, but we can talk about it later, which I don't think both of them liked or something, and you really loved it. But I just love how everyone's got their own opinion on a film. Films are funny things like that, but they're hopefully gonna get us through this period of time. So I have you on to talk travel films. So I'm sure my listeners will love to know what your favorite films are. What are some great travel films that they can watch at the moment? So I also have a small list of travel films that I can let you know about, and you can tell me if you've seen them or if you think they're crappy or anything like that. So these actually talking about these travel films that I've got in the list, they've all influenced me to travel, to see the world further. So it's great. So saying this, what are your favorite travel films, if you have any? And secondly, have you been influenced by any of these films to go and see the world or that location in real life?
I will say, like, when we talked about coming on as travel films, I've never really sat and thought of, oh, this movie's a travel film, or this, does that, because I just love film. So I just look at it as like entertainment, and I'm having fun. So I never so as I started diving into lists of like, okay, what would I consider a film that I would consider a travel film? So to me, I mean, there are a lot that I would consider. Anything that for me is something that they go on to different places and have an adventure is kind of probably what I would kind of go for. Something like in Indiana Jones, where he goes to different exotic places, and you always love the map where you kind of see him kind of moving around, or like Romancing the Stone, like just fun adventures like that is kind of what first came to my mind.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. And
But then I also think of films like, National Lampoon's Vacation or Little Miss Sunshine, where it's like a cross-country trip to get to a certain point, but then little things happen along the way that are just a fun. It's still that adventure, but you're just having a fun trip with these characters.
No, that's fair enough. I was talking to my brother-in-law just before, and I mentioned that I was going to be having you on and talking travel films and so forth. He came up with a few beauties. He said Zombieland.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that would kind of be that you're trying to get somewhere. And
exactly. I thought about The World's End, which has the two guys from Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, the two English guys, how they go to all the different bars in the UK. Have you seen that? World's End?
Yes. I really enjoy those movies with the Simon Pegg and Nick Frost.
Nick Frost, that's it. They're unbelievable, those guys.
Oh, yeah, they have a good chemistry.
And then my brother-in-law mentioned It's a Mad, 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 Mad World.
Oh, yes.
The 50s.
Uh-huh. I know the movie.
Said that. Oh, good. Yeah, well, I don't know the movie, so maybe we have a bit of a chat about it. I then thought about National Lampoon's Vacation, which you mentioned, I think, just before. Harry and the Hendersons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so because they're going camping, and then obviously they get in contact with a fictional beast. Well, there's some places in America where they believe Bigfoots are real, though, don't they, Brad?
Yes, they do. There are quite a few out here that either people, places, whatnot would still believe. I mean, sometimes you hear this stuff and you think it could be real, just like Loch Ness Monster, all those other tales that you always hear.
Tall tales.
Yeah.
And then my brother-in-law also thought 127 Hours is travel related.
Yeah, that's a movie I have not seen, so I know the premise of it, but I have not seen it. A couple other ones I would think on my list is Up, the Pixar film.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a really, devastating first 5 minutes of the film, but the rest of the movie is really fun. And then another movie that this kind of is more of traveling to, the big overseas type of thing, overseas for me here. But a movie I love is 7 Years in Tibet with Brad Pitt, where he goes to visit the Dalai Lama. It's a really good movie.
I've seen that once, and it needs another viewing by me because I don't remember it that well. Okay.
Yeah, that one, and then Kundun came out at the same time. That one more focuses more on the Dalai Lama himself, which I think it's an excellent movie too.
How do you spell Kundun?
Kundun.
Kundun.
Yeah.
Kundun. What about Tropic Thunder? I just watched that again the other night.
That movie is pretty funny.
In Vietnam. I just love it's a film inside a film inside a film type of feeling. It's so strange.
Now,
it's just brilliant.
It is, and that's one of those movies where I wasn't sure when I saw it because I watched that movie later on, like after it was in the theaters, and it was kind of hyped up by people, and it's always one of those like, oh, I hope it's as funny as people say it is, and it was. It was. I was pretty surprised. I will say the second part that you said, any movies inspire me to travel. Yes. I mean, the only thing I could really think of is, everybody probably wants to do this. When they see Lord of the Rings, you want to go to New Zealand because those landscapes just look beautiful.
And they are. They are beautiful. I've been to some of those landscapes in New Zealand. I've been to where the hobbits had their little hobbit hole.
Okay.
Where I think it was Frodo. Frodo's a good guy, isn't he?
Yes.
He's not the evil, like,
I'm
little man.
Yeah, no,
that guy. So the Frodo little houses that are carved into the side of, I think, like little mounds or hills.
Oh, yeah, the little hobbit holes.
Yeah, hobbit holes. I'm pretty sure that's in the North Island, because I've been to the North and the South Island. And I'm pretty sure I've been there without knowing what it was, because I was there before the film was around.
Okay.
That makes any sense?
Yeah.
That probably sounds like Chinese.
It's definitely one of those places I would love to visit. I've never traveled overseas, so there are plenty of places I would love to visit overseas.
So would you say there's plenty of movies that come out that kind of give you that wanderlust and you think, oh, geez, yeah, I'd like to go to Japan after I saw Lost in Translation or something like that, which is one of my favorite films in the world, by Sofia Coppola.
Oh, yes, absolutely. It is one of those movies where you see other places and you're like, oh, I would really love to visit this. Like you mentioned Parasite before. I know that it shows kind of a class difference between people, but it is one of those things where, the Cinemaiden, she lives in South Korea, but I would love to go see this area of the world that I've never seen. Like I've watched probably more Korean movies now that she's there than before, and just seeing the culture and like The Farewell is another one that comes to my mind.
The Farewell, I haven't seen that.
With Awkwafina, where she goes to China with her grandmother is dying, and it spends a lot of time of the way another culture deals with death compared to, say, how we are here in the United States or other places in the world.
Hey, with a Parasite, and you guys were talking about if those like basement living is real, because I remember you guys talking about it's very much real, because I remember someone from Korea telling me about that. Okay.
And when you see movies like that, you're always like, is that real or is this just the movie? But it does give you real. That like, yeah, I would like to just go see it for myself.
You can understand why they were the way they are. They've got nothing and they're just trying to exploit the system.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where I come from with Parasite. And those rich people, to them, have everything. And they're like, if we exploit them, it's not like we're doing them any, they're not going to lose out of it. We're getting employment from it. But it's strange how that film starts off as a comedy but ends up as a horror. It's like a 2-part film, I found.
And a lot of Korean movies are. There are 2 movies in one. We've watched quite a few that either, start out as a comedy and end up as a drama, or, start out as one thing and be something else. It's I don't know if it's the way they view movies over in Korea. It's just it's kind of like a 2 movie in one kind of thing. It's very interesting.
What about Last Train to Busan? That was brilliant.
That one is on my list to see. I have not watched it yet.
You haven't seen it?
No, I have not.
That's a horror drama, which I now call it a horrama.
I'll have to put it on my quote-unquote quarantine list, since, there's a lot of time in the house right now.
You've got a couple to put on your quarantine list. You got Last Train to Busan, 178 hours. Is that right? 148. Sorry. Wrong film. 127 hours.
Yeah.
Don't put 178 hours. You won't find it anywhere. Oh, it's just us giggling. I love it. So, yeah, Parasite, fantastic film, man.
Yes, it is. Very, very much.
Yeah. So, considering there was a question here, I was going to say how much traveling you've done. Have you done a lot of traveling inside of America, or anything that you've watched that spurred you on to want to travel America?
I have done quite a bit of traveling in America.
Yeah.
Going to the West Coast, to Florida, because I'm in Cincinnati now. I grew up in Colorado, and I used to live in San Francisco. So I've kind of
You've moved around,
seen some different parts of this country, and some cities like New York. New York is in movies a lot. When you're in the U.S., it's usually like New York, Chicago, San Francisco. Those are like some of the main cities you see. I would say probably more than others. And New York is a city I have never been to, but have always wanted to visit. And I think part of it is, you see Broadway, and you see how kind of almost big this city is in film, and it kind of makes you like, oh, I need to go there. I want to go there, but I have not yet.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite part in probably New York would be Central Park, the actual park.
Okay.
And I remember there's some brilliant scenes of Central Park in a Will Ferrell film called Elf.
Yes.
You've seen Elf?
Oh, yes.
I love Elf.
We watch it every Christmas.
Ah, that's cute. Yeah, well, that's a favorite comedy of mine. Well, one of. I've got lots. Actually, all of Will Ferrell's films are my favorites.
Anchorman. I love at least the first Anchorman. Anchorman is so good.
Is Anchorman 2 when he goes blind?
I think so. I've only seen that like once or twice. The first one I've watched quite a few times.
Yeah. Step Brothers is pretty good.
Oh yeah, that one's really good.
That's hilarious. It's got some of the funniest dialogue in it. Oh my god. Oh, when he's playing the drums, he goes, "I'm going to stick my balls all over the drums," something like that. This is a family-friendly show too. Kids' balls, I mean, they're something that's connected to the drum kit. Oh, anyway.
But yeah, traveling for me outside the United States I've been to Canada, but that's the only place outside of the US I have been.
Fair enough. Well, for me, anyway, I found that, as I mentioned earlier, Lost in Translation really urged me to go to Tokyo and to see Greater Japan. So it ended up happening in 2016, and I feel I watched that film kind of near when it came out. And obviously, The Lord of the Rings, I had already gone to New Zealand. Lord of the Rings came out. And, in Croatia, you've got this little town called Dubrovnik, and that is so well known for some of the sets for the Game of Thrones franchise. And I know that's gotten a lot of extra tourism since Game of Thrones. But, some of my favorite travel films, I'm going to list them for you, Brad. I want to know if you've seen them, okay?
Okay. All
right. So, Lost in Translation, I've mentioned. You've watched it?
Yes, I have seen it, and it is a very good film.
Cool. In Bruges?
I have seen that. It's been a while, and I don't totally remember it, and I can't remember what I thought of it, honestly.
I think
that has Colin Farrell in it, right?
Yeah, it's got Colin Farrell.
Gleason. What's his?
Gleason. Liam Neeson. No. Liam Gleason? No. That's two actors in one.
It's like on the tip of my tongue. I know his last name's Gleason, and I can picture him in my mind, but in the movie itself, I know I've seen it, but I'm kind of blanked on it right now.
It doesn't matter. I remember there's a fantastic little line in Bruges, but it does involve me having to swear, which I don't know if I'll do that or not. But it says, "It's an effing fairy tale." in Bruges. Like, there's no reason why you wouldn't want to be stuck there just for a few days, because he gets quarantined in a sense because he's done something bad at the start.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Colin Farrell's character. Remember the start?
Honestly, I'm like I can see the cover of the movie, but yeah, and I don't know why I can't remember this movie.
Do you reckon we should do a spoiler for anyone that hasn't watched it?
Go for it.
Spoiler warning for In Bruges. Now, his character shoots, I think he's supposed to shoot someone that's inside the church or the cathedral, and I thought it was to shoot I forget who he shoots, but he shoots a child instead. Oh, I think he's supposed to shoot Ben from the future here. Now, I was trying to understand or describe what you would call someone with dwarvism. You would call them little person or little people, as Brad said, or short-statured, or someone living with dwarvism. And that's exactly who Colin Farrell's character was trying to shoot, but he shot a child instead, which is not very cool, but it all works out in the film. So back to the conversation. And that's why he's sent by his boss to Bruges to wait out there, because there's a hit on him. And he's sent with that big English guy, which is the Gleeson guy.
Brendan Gleeson.
And if anyone's wondering, it's a brilliant film, and watch it right now.
I think I'm going to have to go rewatch it now, because I honestly cannot remember the movie. I know I've watched it.
But it's so good, Brad. You have to watch it. You have to remember it. It must be in your memory.
Maybe it's one of those, I'll start to watch it again and go, oh, yes, I do remember this.
Oh, it's just so well done. And also, tell you what else is well done is Midnight in Paris by Woody Allen.
And for me, I am not a big Woody Allen fan.
Shit.
Brilliant
film, man.
I know a lot of people love his movies, but I just have never been able to get into his films.
Can you try and watch Midnight in Paris for me?
I'll put it on my ever-growing list.
Of quarantine list?
my ever-growing quarantine list.
It's really good. Yeah.
It's probably one I've never watched it because I've never been a fan of Woody Allen. So it was like, oh yeah, I'm not going to watch that.
Oh, but it's so good. I didn't even know it was made by Woody Allen.
Okay. Well, if you tell me that, then I might, maybe, I don't know. I'll give it a go.
Well, I watched it before I knew that Woody Allen was the director, I'm guessing.
Okay.
And I thought it was brilliant. Another brilliant film, which actually has the same actor, which is the guy who goes, oh, yeah, oh, I forgot his name. He's a blonde guy. He's kind of going, hey, man. Okay, actually, if I tell you this film, Darjeeling Limited by Wes Anderson.
Oh, it's probably one of Owen Wilson?
Owen Wilson. Hey,
okay.
Yeah.
I have not seen that, and I think you're 2 for 2 here.
No, I'm like 8 for 7.
Wes Anderson is also not one of my favorites.
Oh my God, he's like my favorite.
But I really, really love Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I think that's his best movie he's ever done, in my opinion.
Oh. Well, I'm going to say Darjeeling Limited is his best. And also...
and that's one I have not seen, so...
Rushmore, which is brilliant. It has Jason Schwartzman, one of my favorite actors.
It had it. I'm going to be honest. It had its moments, but I wasn't a giant fan of it.
Did you review it on the Cinema Guys?
I'm breaking your heart here now, aren't I?
Yeah, you're breaking my heart, Brad. You're a heartbreaker. Now, come on, you have to tell me you like this film, Fargo by Coen Brothers.
Can I plead the fifth?
No. What's going on?
I think we talked about this on the Cinema Guys one time. I mentioned that I wasn't a fan of Fargo, and both Justin and the Cinemaiden were just like, "What?"
Oh God!
I was like, I don't know.
Like it?
It didn't it didn't click I watched it after it came out. What is it, mid-90s when it came out? So it might have been one of those times where it just hit me in the wrong moment, because The Big Lebowski is one of those movies everybody loves that I didn't really care for, but I rewatched it this summer and I found it hilarious and I love it. So it's one of those, I may have watched it at a wrong moment in my life, and now that rewatching, it could be totally different.
Okay, so I've got a rewatch for you. Something that happened to me. So the first time I ever watched Tropic Thunder, I fell asleep. I thought it was so boring.
Okay.
I did not get it. I didn't realize it was a film inside a film. I didn't realize anything about it, and I didn't have any love for Vietnam or war films. After going to Vietnam, having a little bit of interest in war in general, and figuring out that it's a film inside a film, it is one of the best films I've ever seen now.
Okay.
So there you go. Like, totally changed my mind.
And it is one of those, like, you watch a movie at a certain time in your life and it doesn't hit you. Like I said with Big Lebowski, I didn't like it when I first saw it, and I just did a rewatch this summer, and I think it's amazing, and I will probably watch it multiple times. So it just,
Big Lebowski is unbelievable.
You got to give movies a second chance. Even though I say I don't like Fargo, I could rewatch it and think differently.
Okay, so that's fair enough. I've got another travel film which really inspired me when I was younger to visit Thailand in Southeast Asia, called The Beach by Danny Boyle. Have you seen that?
I have seen that. It is a pretty trippy movie, if I remember right, especially when it goes, isn't there like a video game type scene where he's running down the beach
running through a forest?
That's it. That's what it was.
He's running through a forest. Yeah, because that film centers around, I think there was a marijuana plantation with guys with guns, like obviously locals and stuff, and then they're a bunch of hippies that are living on the beach that have formed their own little community. Then they have to go back and forth to Bangkok, which actually is not accessible from the island that the movie was shot, which was Phi Phi Island. There's no way to get to Bangkok unless you go from Phi Phi Island to Phuket via boat, which takes a couple of hours. Then you take a car or a bus that takes hours to get to Bangkok. But they acted like the island was just off Bangkok or very close. They were going back and forth.
The magic of movies.
Oh, don't you just love it? But then I look back on it and I go, because I've read the book, The Beach.
Okay.
It's like, you should have just stuck with the book a little bit more. But then I understand that if you were to try and make the film exactly like the book, maybe the film would take 5 hours.
And that's usually details. a lot of adaptations. If they would make it like the book, these movies would be so long.
Oh my God. You just mentioned a film I love, Adaptation by Spike Jonze.
I love anything that Charlie Kaufman writes.
Yeah.
He also wrote Being John Malkovich.
Oh, I love it. With John Malkovich is in the film, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yeah. And then on the front covers is lots and lots of pictures of his face, I think, from memory.
But he also wrote Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind.
Loved
which
it.
I think is a fantastic movie. Adaptation, which you said was really good. And then Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. If you've never seen that is an excellent movie that he wrote also.
I know of it. I'm going to write it down because that might be one I haven't seen.
That has Sam Rockwell in it, who I think is a fantastic actor.
Yeah, he was great in the film you haven't seen yet. I think it's you that hasn't watched it. Jojo Rabbit.
Oh yes, I have seen Jojo Rabbit, and he was really good in that movie.
Yeah, he was amazing. So, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Yes,
they are films that I would recommend watching if you want to get inspired to travel somewhere once COVID's finished, or if COVID's finished, well, you should be traveling there now. Whenever this episode comes out. Brad.
Yes.
What? You're a very excitable guy. I can hear it through your voice. I I want to know what gets you excited about films.
Man, I love to be entertained. I love especially visually. I'm not a big reader. Like my wife, she can read like tons of books a week. But I prefer to just I like the visuals. I love to see the art of what people could put together. I like to be entertained. And with film, I mean, it's also an escape. I love to just escape and go into this, for the most part, fantasy world and just have a good time for a few hours.
No, that's fair enough. That makes a lot of sense. You know, with me, I love watching films as well. Probably the same thing. I like just escaping the real world. But I find it really hard, and I get teased by a lot of family that I can't sit through series. I get very bored. Like I'm a guy that loves these 15 to 10 minute YouTube videos. Like, bang, give it to me.
Yeah.
But I'm not a millennial though. But I find having to watch through a whole series, not knowing when they're going to give me the ending, it's really painful. But that's why I probably prefer film.
I have gotten that way. I mean, there's so much like series that come out now that I can't keep up, and it is one of those, because it is a time commitment. I'm like, you know what, I can pop in a movie for 2.5 hours and just escape for the end. It's got my beginning, middle, and end, and then I can move on. Unlike, a series. I mean, there are some that I've gotten into, like, Game of Thrones, or I was a big fan of the X-Files back when it was on.
Oh, that was brilliant.
But back when that was on, I mean, you didn't have TV at your fingertips every possible way now. So, I mean,
you'd have to wait each week, wouldn't you, for a new episode?
Exactly. And it's a different world now, to where you have so much information at you. You kind of got to pick and choose what you're going to go with. And for me, I would rather watch a movie than anything else.
Yeah, I feel like there's just too much choice though these days with series and so forth. I mean, like, I'm a huge Westworld fan. I watched a whole series within a couple of days, the first series when it came out. This second series, I've watched the first episode, and that was 4 months ago.
Yeah, that was another one. I started the first season. I got halfway through and probably got distracted by something else, and I haven't gone back to it yet.
So, yeah, that's interesting. You know how you mentioned the beginning, the middle, and the end. What are some aspects of film that you like the most? Obviously, it can be the way a film is structured, or it can be, what's in the film, like what type of film. I mean, what do you like? What type of films, I guess, do you like more so?
My favorite genre of film is horror. I love horror movies. I like horror. I love and I love everything from like the schlocky B horror movies that I like to call so bad they're good, to something like a Hereditary or Midsummer, where it's just completely messes with your mind type of horror movie.
Yeah, they're good. I
think it's just something, and it kind of gives you a little bit of an adrenaline. I love, like, John Carpenter's The Thing is my all-time favorite horror movie ever made, and I love like practical effects. That's one of my favorite things. Like, in this world of, CG and Marvel movies, I love those too, because they're very entertaining and fun to watch. But then I love a good movie that does good practical effects.
Do you like, I think his name is Robert Rodriguez.
Yes.
Zombie films.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like his stuff?
I do. He recently just did Alita Battle Angel, which I found to be a very good movie. Like, I love that movie
as well.
And then I also liked his Desperado series that he did, and his Grindhouse movie that he did with Quentin Tarantino was really fun.
Oh, what's that? Grindhouse?
Yeah, it's Grindhouse. It came out as a double feature. Quentin Tarantino did a movie called Death Proof, and then
Death Proof.
Robert Rodriguez did one called Planet Terror. And then when it came out as a double feature with like fake trailers and everything. You can actually get the Blu-ray that you can watch it that way. and it's
wow.
And they made the film very like scratched looking, like it was an old Grindhouse movie.
Oh, cool.
It's really, really fun.
Maybe for the people out there that don't know what a Grindhouse film is, could you just like explain that just a little bit?
Man, they're kind of that low. No. They're kind of that low budget movie that you would see a lot of times if they play like late at night in an old theater, and usually like low quality, low budget, bad acting, everything else, and sometimes these movies got played so much that the big part that especially do in this Grindhouse film is like the film gets really scratched up, and sometimes chunks end up missing for no reason because maybe the film broke and they had to fix it. So it's just kind of like that old, you're out late at night and you're finding that old theater to watch some movie that nobody's ever heard of.
Wow.
Kind of thing.
Like snuff porn.
I guess, well, not quite that close, I guess, but
love it.
But yeah, horror is definitely my favorite genre. I think that's why a recent episode we had was a movie called Color Out of Space with Nicolas Cage. And it's kind of like a sci-fi horror movie, but I absolutely
really
fell in love
that.
with the movie. And I've watched it multiple times since it came out. And it has some of that practical work that I love. And then it's just kind of strange, but just, I don't know. It's one of those, like, it's hard to explain. It just hit me in the right spot. And I absolutely love the film.
Hit you in the knackers, as we'd say in Australia, meaning hit you in the balls.
There you go.
That's an adaptation from an H.P. Lovecraft short story, which I have.
Yes, correct.
And I love H.P. Lovecraft stories. Yes.
And I after watching Color Out of Space, I haven't read any H.P. Lovecraft, but I went to watch other adaptations of his. Like I've seen Reanimator before, which is a really good film. And then I went back and watched From Beyond and Castle Freak and a few of his other movies, just because I'm like, I haven't watched much Lovecraft besides Reanimator, so I'm going to see what I like as far as adaptations go. So
funny. What do you think of Lovecraft? Do you know much about him?
I kind of looked a little bit up when I kind of researched for our episode, and I don't know a ton about him really. Like I know he wrote some short stories. He used to write for, wasn't a magazine or something like that. He wrote these for. I don't know his full backstory, but
yeah,
I know he has a lot of works.
Yeah, he has a lot of works, but from what I've kind of realized listening to a few podcasts in relation to H.P. Lovecraft is that he was a massive racist, and then so he's got a bit of a tortured past, this man. A lot of people say he wasn't a very nice person, but his short stories are unbelievable though.
Yeah, I've seen that, like the giant collection of his works, but I have not read any of them.
No, they're really good. So if anyone wants to read any of his works, doesn't matter about what he's done in the past, he's dead now, but his stuff is really interesting.
I know it's really kind of otherworldly and kind of, I know he dealt a lot with kind of stuff that happened, a lot of science fiction type of stuff, sci-fi horror, as they like to call it.
That's
kind of very
exactly what it
strange, and that's what I love. I loved it. Definitely see Color Out of Space. Add that one to your list.
Okay. No, I've added it because I remember. I saw on your podcast list that you've got it there, that you've done it, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah, it was one of our recent episodes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't listened to that yet, but I will. And I then went online. I looked on YouTube to look at a trailer. It does look really good. Looks enticing. I like it. Very strange. And I know that another film that has the main actor, oh man, I forgot his name.
Nicolas Cage?
Nick Cage, yeah, Nicolas Cage. Is that related? This color out of space, is it related to Mandy, the film Mandy? Somehow?
No. And the only relation to it is the same production company. But other than that, that's the only thing. And they both have Nick Cage in them. But Mandy's another one of those crazy.
Yeah, it looks crazy.
Movies. It's kind of two movies in one. The first movie is very almost drama, and then it just turns into this wild revenge movie.
Oh, must have been directed by a Korean.
Two movies in one. They do it a lot.
Talking about great films that have been directed by really fantastic people. So I've got a list of some of my favorite movies here. And they're non-related to travel. I want to know if you've seen them and what you think of them. And maybe give me a score out of 10.
No, oh boy. This could get me in trouble if you're having me rate them.
Well, I want to know what Justin and the Cinemaiden think of your ratings of my films, of Travelman's favorite films. So here we go. Oh brother, where art thou?
I have not seen it. I have been told by Justin multiple times that I have to watch this movie because it is so good. So I have not watched it.
Brad, why haven't you watched all these fantastic films?
I've been asked that question before, and it's probably because I'm watching crazy Nicolas Cage movies instead or something.
Probably. So that's a 10 out of 10 for Brad. No Country for Old Men, another Coen Brothers films.
That is an excellent movie. That movie is just the atmosphere that they created with that movie, and the tension in that movie is outstanding.
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it?
It is.
Okay. Is that 10?
I would probably, I would definitely rate that
9
high and say, see, if you have not seen No Country for Old Men, definitely see it.
Good man. What about, oh yeah, we mentioned Rushmore.
We talked
Rushmore.
Did
you say you hadn't seen it?
I have seen it, but it was one of those that I thought
like
it was okay. It's, and I hate trying to put ratings on it. I don't want to.
Can I ask, was it because there was a bit of a relationship between a school student and a teacher? That kind of freaked you out?
I don't think it was. I think it was. It might have been one of those. When I watched it, like I still think the one joke where the OR scrubs joke is my favorite part of the movie. But other than that, I was just like, the rest of the movie, it's okay.
I forget the joke. Can you tell me it again?
When he, I think it's Jason Schwartzman tells him, are those OR scrubs? Or someone asks him that, and then he says, "Oh, are they?"
Oh, are they? Love it. He's so brilliant.
I like your nurse's uniform, guy.
These are OR scrubs.
Oh, are they?
Grand Budapest is one of my favorites as well. Wes Anderson again, which is one of your favorites, isn't it?
Yeah. Like I said, it's of what I've seen of Wes Anderson, I've seen, I think, majority of his movies. That it's my favorite that I have seen of his.
Now, I've got another bunch, but I'm just thinking of a Christoph Waltz film that I really like, and it's got something to do with Nazi Germany, and I think it's like comedic to a point.
Are you thinking of Inglourious Bastards?
Yes, that's
the
one of
Quentin
my favorite
Tarantino movie.
Too. Yes, Inglourious Bastards, amazing.
That's
also one of my favorite films.
That is one of those things I would tell anybody. Quentin Tarantino, I believe, writes some of the best dialogue of anyone. Because the beginning scene of that movie, when he's sitting at the table, it's some of the best writing I have ever seen. Like he does it in all of his movies.
Yes.
Like Reservoir Dogs, when their group of them are in the dining. and going around the table. Like, I'm like, he knows how to write a conversation with people.
I wonder why. I'd love to have that guy on my podcast one day and ask him how he thinks about dialogue. It's really interesting.
Yeah, because he knows how to write it. that is for sure.
Just a badass that knows how to write dialogue. So have you watched Snatch? Because
I have.
kind of like Reservoir Doggish.
I have watched Snatch. I do enjoy Guy Ritchie's movies. I need to see his new one, The Gentleman. I really want to see that one.
I watched it.
I haven't got around to watch it yet.
Oh God, dude, you're gonna watch that one. That's brilliant. Have you seen Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels?
Yes, I really like that movie too. Like he has a style that I think it's kind of like a Quentin Tarantino type of thing. Like he has a style that I just like.
See, I reckon that's an aspect of film that I like when a director has their own type of style. You know, like Guy Ritchie.
Yeah.
You know a Guy Ritchie film. You know a Wes Anderson film. You know a Coen Brothers film. You know? And adaptation we've spoken about. I love adaptation by Spike Jonze. Spoke Jones.
Yeah, adaptation is good. That's a Nicolas Cage movie.
Oh, he had a new one, Spike Jonze too. Is it KK Klansman?
Oh, the Black. No, that was.
Was that someone else that did that?
That was Spike Lee who did Black Klansman.
Black Clans. That's the one. Black Klansman. I loved Black Klansman,
which is an excellent movie. And then the end was just. It was hard when it hit the credits and it went into like the actual stuff that is still happening here, and it was very difficult. We were going to do that on our show, and after that happened, we walked out of the theater, and the Cinemaidens like, I can't talk about this movie. It's too much
because it's real, isn't it? In a sense, what they talk about.
Yeah, I think that one, especially like for her, it was just like I just can't because it is it's too real right now to talk about.
Would you still recommend people to watch it though?
Oh, I absolutely would. Yes, and I think we even came on the show and said we were going to do this, but we're not. But go see this movie because it is very, very good.
Mm. Yeah, it is brilliant, listener. So definitely, if you like good films and you're not too judgmental and you keep an open mind, I think it's a great film to watch. Also, another great film from the 90s, which is probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite, is The Usual Suspects by Bryan Singer.
That's a good movie.
Unbelievable ending. Unbelievable.
That is one of those movies that going in. I saw trailers and go, okay, this looks like a fun little movie. And then the whole time when you're like, who is this person? And then when you find out, you're just like, oh, whoa, I didn't see that coming. And then you had to go tell everybody, you have to see this movie.
Should we? I was just about to say who it was. Just as a joke.
Yeah, you don't want to get that one. If you haven't seen it, go see it because it is excellent.
Before I say who done it, but it was very brilliant. Hey, so what are your favorite directors? Mine are Wes Anderson, Joel Ethan Cohen, and Guy Ritchie. I reckon they're my top three.
Okay, I'd probably say John Carpenter. I pretty much love almost anything that he's done.
That?
He did The Thing, Halloween, Big Trouble in Little China. He's a horror icon basically, and I just love everything that he's done.
You get along really well with my friend Sean, who lives in Korea. He loves horror, loves it.
And then Quentin Tarantino, I love his movies. I think he's an excellent director. Like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that just came out last year, I think it was one of the best movies of the year. That between that and Parasite, they were both very, very good.
Didn't one of your Justin not like it?
Both of them. They didn't totally care for it. Justin went back and watched it again, with his wife because his wife didn't see it. And he was like, "Oh, guys, this is actually a really good movie." And I was like, "I've been telling you." But he admitted, he goes, "I think the night I saw it, I was just in a bad mood." And
I can understand that.
It all depends on how you see a movie. I wholeheartedly, like, if I come out of a movie and just like, okay, this was just bad because it was bad, or if I come out because I was just in a bad mood that day, then I'm like, well, maybe I'll check that out. Like, going back to, you did The Beach, directed by Danny Boyle, who also did 28 Days Later, which is kind of the world right now. But
28 Days
when
Later
I
is
came,
awesome.
I was so excited to see that movie. And when I came out of the theater, I hated it. But I think my attitude was like, this is going to be the greatest movie ever. And then when it came out on DVD, I rented it and rewatched it and was like, this movie is amazing. So it's that mindset.
Well, I got to definitely watch that. I'm just doing some research at the moment online because I've thought of a film that really touched me in a way. Because I might ask you a film that actually touched you. Hold on, let me just give us 2 seconds. What was the brand new Star Wars film that came out with the actor with the long hair? He plays the main villain. I forgot his name.
Oh, Adam Driver?
Adam Driver. So Adam Driver has this film that probably hardly anyone's ever watched. And I think it was an indie film. Came out probably 3 or 4 years ago. I think my brother-in-law, Mark or Tim, one of my brother-in-laws told me to watch it. But Patterson, such a brilliant film. I loved Patterson. Have you watched it?
Patterson, I have not heard of it.
Oh, it is bloody brilliant, mate. It is so good. He's a bus driver. His name is something Patterson. I forget. It's a Jim Jarmusch film. That's right. He's a bus namer. He's a bus driver who's also a poet. He's named Patterson, and it's set in the town of Patterson. But it's so quirky and strange and just fun. It's brilliant. I mean, it starts a bit slow, but it is so good.
I love Adam Driver. I think he's a fantastic actor. I will have to check it out.
Well, it got nominated for some Palme d'Or and Cannes Best Actor Award. But yeah, it's really good. I would say it's like a drama. But that was a film.
Okay.
I don't like to say the word impacted that much because my dad's he's a crazy bloke when it comes to English language. Like he's a English language professor. He goes, the worst film you can ever use is impacted. Gets overused, but I'm going to say it now just to shit my dad. That film really impacted me. What films have surprised you, Brad? That's probably the better word to use. Something that surprised you. A film that surprised
me.
That surprised me because I thought it was going to be crap.
One off the top of my head is that when you asked me this before, is Logan Lucky, also starring Adam Driver. It's directed by Steven Soderbergh, who did the Ocean's movies, and it's kind of a similar concept as Ocean's, but it's set in I think West Virginia.
That's right. It's Indy 500.
But it has, yeah, and it has Adam Driver, Daniel Craig, and
Daniel Craig's awesome in it.
Yes, and it's one of those movies I went in going, okay, let's go see this movie, and we came out, like, all three of us, we all looked at each other like, oh my gosh, this movie was so good. I can't believe how much we enjoyed it. Yeah, another one is awesome. American Animals, which came out 2 years ago. And we didn't really watch anything about it. We kind of went in blind. We knew that not Netflix, MoviePass, when it was around, put some money behind this movie to distribute it, and we were like, okay, let's go see this movie. And it was really, really, really good. And since then, I tell people, I'm like, check out American Animals. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, like they use, it's another, I don't want to say a heist. It's kind of a robbery, but they cut, filmed actors playing these people with the actual people who were doing this. So it's kind of a
that's interesting.
Sort of documentary of what happened, of them telling them what happened, but then it's also a movie within it. So it was done really well. I really enjoyed how they did it.
I'm looking at that now. It was directed by Bart Layton, who I don't know, and I don't know any of the actors. Spencer Reinhard, Warren Lipka, Eric Bursuck, or Chaz Allen. Don't know them.
Yeah, it doesn't have any big actors or anything like that in it. It's very smaller actors. Some, like, you watch them and go, I've seen that person, I think, in something, but I can't place them.
Okay.
Kind of thing.
Hey, did you ever watch The Dead Don't Die? Because it's a film that I really want to watch.
I have not watched it yet. It's on my list to see, but I haven't gotten around to it. The ever-growing list that's got even bigger after this.
You're in trouble now with this list. At the end of the year, I'm going to get you back on the podcast. We're going to see how many of these bloody films you've watched, and if you haven't watched them, I'll be very upset.
After the quarantine's lifted, you can see, like, did you watch them all?
And did you have quarantinis with them? Were you drinking quarantinis?
Quarantinis.
The Dead Don't Die. It's a horror comedy, but I call them a horrordy. Horrordy. Hey, have you seen the film The Town?
With Ben Affleck?
Ben Affleck.
I have not. I have not.
Masks on what are they, like pig masks, I think. It's really, really, really good, mate. You got to see The Town. Another one to your growing list.
Man, you've added a lot. You've added a lot to my list tonight.
I really thought that you'd be adding to my list. I got you on just to add you to my list.
If I start, I don't even know what movies I could list off.
Well, I like horror films, right? And I really like zombie films. Maybe give me your top three. Give me your top three horror films and top three zombie films. I'll tell you if I've seen them. If I haven't, I'll watch them.
Horror films. I mean, I told you John Carpenter's The Thing is my favorite. I love Halloween. I also love Hellraiser is also one of my favorites. Zombie movies, Night of the Living Dead. That is my all-time favorite zombie movie. It's such a classic. I watch it every year during Halloween, and my wife always makes fun of it because she's like, this is so cheesy. I'm like, it was made in the 60s.
Yeah. But it's still good for something that's in the 60s. Has it been remastered?
Exactly. It is still, it's a classic.
Yeah.
Other zombie movies, man, I've watched so many. I do really like the remake of Dawn of the Dead, just because it was that one of the first times, I think, after 28 Days Later, where you kind of, the zombie, in air quotes there, kind of is fast, and it's not like this slow moving slug coming after you. I think it kind of added to the fear of it.
That's scary because you think that zombies are just supposed to be slow, but they're really fast in that film.
Yeah. And then Zombieland was one of those that came out that it took that zombie genre of movie and kind of added a fun little twist to it of the rules and the everything else. It was just, and Bill Murray in that movie is fantastic.
Well, I would say my favorite zombie film, one of my favorite zombie films would be Shaun of the Dead, Zombieland, and
oh yes, Shaun of the Dead is excellent too.
Or 28 Days Later. That's really, really good. And then horror films, I reckon I used to like Child's Play.
Okay.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Those are both classic horror.
And Friday the 13th. And as a joke,
all good picks. Oh, Scary Movie.
That was just hilarious.
The first one, well, maybe the first two were pretty good, and then after that, they just
they were very like those last films weren't that very good. So I'm at the point now. I want to ask you some final questions, Brad.
Okay.
So I'm not going to keep you too long. It's nice and late for you. You're probably tired. You're going, shit, now I've got a list of 187 films I've got to watch before the end of the year.
I got a lot of movies to watch now.
Now, my final questions are usually travel related. So I might change these. I'm going to edit them now as I'm speaking to you to be more movie related.
Okay.
So hear me out. So if you could watch any film in the world right now, what film would it be?
Any film in the world right now that's like...
Yep. So even a film that's not released yet, there you go. You could watch it right now. Or a film that you've always wanted to be made. How about that?
I know a film that I want to be made that I don't think will ever get made. And it's one of the few books that I have read, and that's Neuromancer by William Gibson.
Oh, that's a fantasy book, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the original... He's one of the authors that coined the phrase cyberpunk. So it's kind of set in like a cyberpunk world. Think of like a Blade Runner type of thing, like dirty but tech. And it's a book that I love. That one, and there's one after it called Count Zero that I would love to see either of them made into movies. But if I could see any movie right now that, whether released or not released, it's the new James Bond movie.
Oh my God. I really
No Time to Die.
I love all the James Bond films. Oh my God. I would say that's my favorite genre of that type of film, if that makes any sense.
I would almost make James Bond a genre of his own, because I mean there's 20, what is this? Is this Bond 24, 25?
Well, look what's followed. I don't
remember.
Bourne Identity and plenty others.
Exactly. And
so it could be a genre in itself.
I love James Bond movies, and I knew, we were coming up like, oh, it's coming out soon. Then everything happened and it got delayed. I'm like, no.
Because they wouldn't want to bring that out to Netflix or any of those online platforms, would they? Because they'd lose a lot of money.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah, it's a too big of a movie to do that.
Okay, so say for instance you're in the cinema by yourself on a comfy couch. What would you be eating or drinking while watching the new James Bond film?
Well, my favorite movie snack that I usually get there is red vines. I love red vines, licorice.
Would not have a clue what the red vines licorice is. It must be an American thing because it's not in Australia.
Okay. But yeah, red vines, it's just red licorice, basically. It's one of my favorite candies that I get when I go to the movies.
What, and how many do you get? You get a whole packet or something?
Yeah, you get just a little pack, and I'll sit and eat my licorice, and more often than not, I'm either drinking, a Coke or a water or whatever. But
yeah, today's podcast sponsored by Coca-Cola, I think. And what city or country would you be watching James Bond eating little red licorice and drinking a Coke?
Well, since Australia doesn't have red vines, I don't think I could come out there to watch it.
Well, we've got other stuff. We've got red licorice, but not that brand.
Not that brand. Okay,
you could do it. You could come to Melbourne.
I mean, Australia has, in my entire life, has always been a country I would love to visit. Like my wife, even we've talked about it before. Like even when we were dating, where's some place you would love to visit or go to? And Australia is always top of the list.
Well, Australia's here with open arms, but at the moment, those open arms have got COVID all over them as well.
Yeah, so exactly.
Probably don't want to hug those open Australian arms.
No, nobody's hugging right now. That's for sure.
The final question: no one's hugging at all. Well, they might be now, Brad, because it's maybe all over. Who knows? But my final question to all my guests: what country or city has surprised you the most? So I don't know if I asked you this previously because I forget. Okay, so what film has surprised you the most? I don't know. I forget if you answered it. And what director has surprised you the most? Or an actor. Just something that's in the film industry that surprised you the most. How about that?
Okay. I will say a director that has surprised me is Rian Johnson, because he did Star Wars: The Last Jedi, Looper, Knives Out. The movies he's done, like he's done, a sci-fi to murder mystery to Looper was a sci-fi too, but a little bit different. And I know there's going to be a lot of people out there that don't like this opinion, but I think Star Wars: The Last Jedi is one of the best Star Wars movies, and I think it was great.
So which one was that? Episode 8?
Episode 8, yeah.
That was just the most recent one with the brother and sister.
Yeah.
they're just got some issues as brother and sister, and it's just normal family shit, but they're just trying to kill each other. That's normal family stuff, isn't it?
Almost something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just family. It's family. But are they really family? I don't know. Who knows?
No, they're not. They're not. Spoiler alert.
Oh, they're not. Oh, geez. Okay. Are they not?
No, they're not.
Oh my God! How did I miss that? I thought they were brother and sister.
According to the last movie, they weren't.
I must have missed something. You mean you mean episode 9?
Episode 9.
Oh, I haven't watched it. That's why.
Oh, okay. Sorry, gave it away. Spoiler alert.
Shit, Brad. Well, on that note,
look what I did. Well, I will say, out of the few places I have traveled, I will say Banff in Canada, outside of Calgary, is one of the most beautiful places I've been to in my travels. Between that and Lake Tahoe, like I would retire and stay in either place.
Lake Tahoe is beautiful.
Yes.
My brother goes snowboarding there frequently. Well, he tries to go there. He goes there in Japan to snowboard.
Okay. Yeah, Lake Tahoe. Oh, it is. As long as you're on the California side, you go to the Nevada side, it's all casinos. So you stay on the Nevada side, it's nice and beautiful.
Yeah. I don't like casinos, so I'd stay on the Californian side. Is that right?
Yeah.
California is probably my favorite state in America because I've seen it the most as well. Been to LA like 3 times, San Diego twice, San Francisco once. I've
San Francisco is my favorite in California. I love San Francisco. I mean, I lived there briefly, and it's a great city.
Well, you got great access to a lot of different things. Like you've got the redwoods, you got Sonoma, Napa Valley.
Oh yeah,
that little town. I forget what it's called. Just outside of San Francisco, and it's by the water. It's beautiful. It's like a little Mexican village. Like it feels very Mexican.
The one outside of San Francisco.
Yeah. It was San Francisco.
Sausalito.
Yeah, Sausalito. It's so beautiful.
Bridge. Yeah.
Yes. Sausalito. God damn, I love Sausalito. I love sauce and Lido. Lido is a Croatian soft drink, and tomato sauce is delicious. And on that note, after we've discussed wonderful films to watch, you've got 178 different films on your list. You're probably 314 now after those couple last ones.
I got a movie for every day now.
You got a movie? Oh my God. Can you do it? Can you watch a film a day, Brad?
With my kids, probably not.
Fair enough. You know what? I've loved having you on. It's been so much fun.
Oh, this has been great. Thank you for having me. It's been awesome.
It's been a good laugh, especially in this bloody period of time at the moment.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
It's good to have a laugh. And I love your high energy, high tempo. And if anyone's out there and they're wondering, they want to hear a lot more of Brad, you can hear him on the Cinema Guys. And Brad, what's the best way for someone to contact you if they want to say g'day?
Just go to wearethecinemaguys.com.
Also, by the way, if you want to hear the best ever intro to a podcast, my favorite anyway, is the Cinema Guys. They have the best intro, and that intro song's on Spotify, which I listened to the other day as well, and it's brilliant.
Thank you. It was done by a friend of mine. He did it, and he created the music for us, and hopefully we're going to get in the this year sometime, maybe some new music. He's going to work on some new stuff for us, so we'll see.
Awesome. Hey, Brad, have you guys ever had a guest on your podcast?
We have. We've had a couple of, like we had Greg Sestero, if you know what the room, and we've had a couple of indie horror directors on as well.
Oh, well, there's a guy sitting in Melbourne in a chair right now, listening, talking to you, that would love to be part of your podcast. And you know what? If anyone wants to contact me, they can contact me at www.travelmanpodcast.com or travelmanpodcast@gmail.com. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and you can listen to my podcast on all platforms, just like the Cinema Guys. That's on all platforms as well.
Yep.
And I'm saying goodbye to you, listener. And goodbye to my friend Brad. And sorry, I keep cutting Brad off too.
No,
which is terrible.
thank you again for having me, and definitely listen to more of the Travelman. He has a great show.
Thanks, Brad.